Hello and welcome. Today we'll be talking about the Vanquest PPM Huge. This is the hybrid toolkit that I came up with when I was combining my electronics kit and my toolkit. It features a lot of interesting gear that have been cut back and reduced into the small form factor, especially considering cutting two types of toolkits into one with just the essentials from each one. It's a fun kit. It's just a little over 4 pounds and it functions pretty well. It can fit in my coat pocket, although it's not the best kind of carry, but it's a fun kit and it's one of my most favorite designed filled out kits to use. And I basically maximize every single part of this kit on the inside, so it's bursting to the seams with a lot of tools in it, and they're mostly organized, which I like, and the Vanquest design allows for that. Here we can see the outside of the kit. Here's the front. We have a slip pouch in the front, a small hook and loop field here, which I have a small pouch on here for identifying what's in the pouch. And this kit is fairly thick. We can see in the side profile here with the spine and the two YKK zippers. And then on the back, we have some more straps for attaching to other things like a backpack or whatnot. And we have a grab handle here. And then we have the inverted zipper here. So it's a fairly thick pouch. It's fairly big for what it is, but it is a nice container of all the items that I could fit into this kit. So let's go ahead and open it up and see what's inside. So as we can see, we have a plethora of tools on the inside, and we'll go through everything inside of it. It's very tightly packed. On this side, we mainly have mostly mechanical type tools, and then on this side, we mostly have the electronic side and business end of the tools. So let's go ahead and start with the biggest one here right now that's sticking out. This is a ANEG or ANENG A3008 or 308 or 3008 voltmeter. So it has true RMS. This is a 1 AAA battery powered voltmeter, and I have the contact stored in another case inside of here. But basically this measures a lot of voltage and current and whatnot, and this can do quite a lot for the size it is, and it's a great form factor for the kit. Initially when I was building the kit, I wasn't able to put this in here, but kind of filling this all out was sort of like a puzzle to put together, which is quite a lot of fun. So this is our multimeter of the kit. And then on this side we have a bunch of soldering, and this is basically the 60% tin, 40% lead. And this is very fine rosin core. This is Alpha Fried brand. So I use this for electronics and soldering a lot of other things together, mostly wires and small electronics, but it works fairly well. In the center here we have the solder iron. This is a battery powered soldering iron. I took off the tip here in the cap and I have it stored over here just so it fits a little bit better in the kit. And this is a 1100 milliamp hour battery powered soldering iron. You can turn it on with 5 clicks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it goes on and has 5 different settings, 6 which is a constant on, and you push and hold this down and it would heat up, and you can turn it off too. And that is charged by USB-C. So you can charge this up and then use it. I do have a battery bank in the kit, but this is a self-sustaining soldering iron which can last for about 15 to 20 minutes of soldering constant on at a decent temperature, and that's why we have it in the kit. I used to have another soldering iron in the kit. Works pretty well too, but it was in a battery contained unit like this one. Let's go into these webs down here. Down here I have my A-torch and a variant of the A-torch USB multimeter, and this one works fairly well. I have some adapters here to convert this USB-C to a USB-A, and the input also from USB-C input to USB-A input, so I can use this with computers and for diagnostics. It's a fairly useful and small and somewhat accurate multimeter for USB reading. and that's why we have it in the kit, and it fits perfectly in this kit here. Next up is the Leatherman Es4. This is a great multi-tool. I've talked about it many times. And we have the 420HC stainless steel blade here. And then we have a 3-sided file, single hatched AT section on the bottom and a cross-hatched section on the other side, which is very coarse. The file is invaluable in terms of cleaning up electronics and connectors. And on this side, we do have a small pair of scissors that are spring-loaded. And then on this side, we do have our slotted screwdriver and bottle cap lifter. And then this one, we have our 2D Phillips head screwdriver. And then finally, we open it up to the main tool here, which is a wire stripper with a small plier section that grabs at the teeth here at the very end, and a copper wire cutter in the center there. The gauges for this that work fairly well is going to be 20, 18, 16, 14, and 12 gauge. And this is the smallest type of wire strippers I could find that would fit in the kit. It's a very rare tool. They don't make it anymore, but it's pretty valuable in terms of a small electronics toolkit like this. Moving over to this small elastic band, we have the adapters, which again that I mentioned that I can use with the A-Torch or the High Dance USB multimeter, and this is how it would work for adapting to the USB-A. Now I have a USB-A reader, and I can attach multiple different types of USB powered items to measure the current and the power and the wattage. Further in this section, we have some birthday candles here, and I can use this to melt the glue sticks that are in the kit, and without using my fuel source too much, which is my lighter, I can also use these candles to heat up the heat shrink tubing in the kit, and this works fairly well as a consistent power source of light and heat. And then in here, I have a AAA battery wrapped up in electric tape and inside a AA spacer, so I can put this in a AA slot and use that. So this is my backup battery to the multimeter and also my AAA light in the kit. And then in here I do have a alligator clip prong for the negative side of my probe here that plugs into the multimeter. So this is basically an adapter that fits on the prong there, and I can clip to certain things and maintain contact while measuring voltage and whatnot. And then I also have in this slot a positive prong that would screw into the front of the multimeter, and this is just a different spade type of connector for it. So there's various connectors for this multimeter that I have in the kit. In this little slot here, I keep a small pico size or micro sized lighter, and this one is lighter fluid filled, and it does have a small flame here, and it works very well, and it works very good for the kit being a small micro sized lighter. I can use that to heat up heat shrink tubing or light the candles and melt more items or heat more items up. And then finally in this slot here, I do have my two types of soldering tips, a broad tip and a smaller tip, and the cap that goes to the soldering iron that I have here. And that's it for the bottom roll. Let's go into the back slots of these rows here and these webs over here. Simply put, in these webs here, I have some paper clips on the outside, various sizes for poking, prodding, and accessing certain SIM card ports on phones. I do have a USB to micro cable here, and then I do have a small pick here, which is non-conductive. That's good for cleaning out electronics and probing things, and a small wire cleaner as well. And then I also have this verbatim 32 gigabyte USB stick with information on it. So that's it for this little slot here. And here on this little web band, I'll take this out and show you. This is a mini spring-loaded pen. It's very micro-sized, very small, about the same size as a standard refill option for a big pen. And this is a fantastic little pen for the kit. It saves a lot of weight and space, and it does write pretty well. Although it's not as comfortable to use as a regular pen, it can still work as a regular pen. So this is the primary pen in the kit. I do have other pens in this kit too, but this is our primary one, which works fairly well. Let's go to this side here. And in here we have a small 4-inch vice grip. And these are very, very useful for a lot of applications. In this particular kit, it's good in the toolkit side and also the electronic side, because I can use this to hold certain items while I solder it if I want to, as a makeshift holder arm for soldering, or it can compress down certain things and hold them in place while I work on it. So it's a fairly useful item. Those of you who use lock and drawer pliers already know this and understand this. A very good investment. And these are the Irwin vice grips. Next up in this sleeve here, I have a couple items. I do have a clipper here. Now this particular one opens in a unique fashion where you pull against it and I can clip. I use this for clipping zip ties here for a nice neat job. Gets right up to the edge and it clips pretty well without the chance of cutting other wires and other things. So that's why we have this in the kit here. And it's relatively small and flat, so it fits a good profile. Here is the negative probe that would plug into the multimeter and go with the accessories that go on top of it. So we keep that stored in this little spot here in case I need to take it out and use the multimeter. In this web behind here, in front, or rather in back of these tools and items, we have a small USB charging cable. And I keep that tied up nice and neatly in here. We can use that to charge up our various items in the kit, plus also charge up our soldering iron here. And that's it for the front web section. Let's go back into the rear here and look at the rest of the items. In here I keep a container. It's an old big pen container, and inside I keep the probes for the male end of the multimeter inside of it. Typically I would use these to hold sewing kits, but in this case this is an electronic kit, and we're holding the probes for the multimeter here with that. And believe it or not, in this kit I managed to fit a Makita impact rated socket set. This is in metric, and the adapter for the conversion for any sockets for this kit inside of here. And in this section we have the zip ties, which we use for the kit and other small electronic projects. And then nothing would be complete without having some sort of non-conductive, very low abrasive type of wipe in the kit here, for mainly for the engineering and the mechanic side, but for cleaning as well. We have a Fresnel lens in here, or a Fresnel lens as some call it. And then we have this small little microfiber cleaning cloth, still in the plastic case to keep it clean for when we use it. And then we also have a small plastic bag full of heat shrink tubes. And on this side is a flip up soldering iron holder and a small sponge for cleaning the soldering iron tips, all nestled in this small plastic bag here. And then at the bottom we have about, I want to say, 5 feet of electric tape here, plus some mini glue sticks for small electronic projects and whatnot, so we can fix some things up and glue them back together. And that's all there is for this side of the kit. Let's go on to the mechanical side here, and we'll start with the front here. We have the ever popular Knipex Cobra pliers. These are Cobra water pump pliers. These are the 125 millimeter or the 5-inch ones, and they work fairly well. I've used this on multiple occasions. I've worked on the car with this, using it on a bunch of things. And one thing to note with these pliers is eventually the teeth get dirty, so you want to clean them up as much as possible and make sure they're in working order. So these are a little bit on the dirtier side, but they do work fairly well, and they grip very well on compared to some other pliers, and they do fit the profile of the kit, being a small pair of pliers but with a big huge bite. And then over here we have a small Sharpie for marking things. Comes in handy. And then in this slot here we have a Work Pro small utility knife with replaceable blades inside of here, so we can replace our main cutting tool. It's rather small and somewhat comfortable to use in the hand for a short period of time. Getting over to this slot here in the top, we are coming up to some more complicated tools. This is the Leatherman bit ratchet, and it is an excellent ratchet for inline driving, and it works well with our Leatherman Wave in the kit. And attached to it in a neat order fashion, I have this 711 number 71190 foldable head ratchet. This is a 60-tooth gear ratchet, I believe, and you can have it in such a way where it's almost inline when it attaches to the adapter in your Leatherman or a 6mm hex female bit. So this is a reversible ratchet, much like the Leatherman, but you can have it in a angled fashion to get some of those harder to reach electronics. So we have these two here in the kit. I keep them together. An excellent choice of small EDC tool to have in your kit. Next to it, we do have a Duratech wrench. This is a standard socket one that has a push-through cross section, which we'll have another tool in a moment here to show you how to use that, but it turns into a T-handle, and you can put bits in the bottom here. 6mm, and you can torque a lot harder with this, and this is a straight edge ratchet, so it's a little bit more inclined for harder torquing, unlike the other ratchets here. And then in this slot I simply have a wooden stick or toothpick just for probing electronics and not marring anything, any soft metals or plastics, so we don't have to scratch anything up. Going down to the bottom here in this little slot here, we have a small measuring tape. This is the foldable kind. It's the only kind I could fit in the kit without attaching something to the handle here. And this is great because you can wrap it around things, and it's a little bit more flexible than your standard type of measuring tape. In this portion, we have the Nypex wrench pliers, and these are fantastic for a small tool that doesn't want to mar any of the metal that it works on the fasteners here. And it has an excellent type of lever system here. As we can see, it gives you a lot of mechanical advantage when you push down on the top lever. So there's been numerous videos on this, and it's a fairly good design. You just got to be careful about using it outdoors because these gear workings here will get dirt in it and it'll make it harder to use. So they're really rated for indoor use, but if you're careful and you're clean, you can use these in any environment that you want. And they work well with the Cobra pliers here, and they work fairly well. An excellent combination to have for a small EDC toolkit. In this section here of the big webs, we do have our Cybertool M, or Cybertool 34. It's almost like the Cybertool Lite, but a little bit less bigger and bulkier. Basically, we'll go over the tool set real quick here. We have a slotted screwdriver, bottle cap lifter, wire bender, and that can go in inline fashion as well. We have a can opener and a slotted screwdriver rather in here. And then we have the namesake of the Cybertool. This is the inline and 90-degree fashion 4mm hex bit driver, and this comes with its own proprietary hex bits. It's non-magnetic, but it does have ball detents in the proprietary bits here, which do fit the hex driver, and it can accept 5mm bits in a shallow fashion. Works fairly well for a thin necked screwdriver to get into those harder to reach places. Then we have a more fine gradient or a smaller pair of pliers with a wire bender and a very, very small wire clip cutter there for very thin wire, a regular pair of pliers in the center, and a more finer grabbing portion of plier teeth in the front here. And these are a lot smaller than these, as you can see, and they're made to get into smaller places. So that's why we have it with the Cyber tool. Plus the bit driver on it is our precision driver set for the electronic side and mechanical side. Another important feature that this brings to the table is a good pair of scissors here. Unlike the ES4 scissors, these are a little bit more hardier and a lot more robust and will do a job just as efficiently, and they're very precise. They're probably the best kind of scissors you can get on a multi-tool. Then we have a main blade, which is a very fine, soft metal that will cut precisely. And then you also have a backup blade on here as well, which will cut precisely. On the bottom, we do have a corkscrew with a smaller slotted screwdriver for taking apart glasses, and smaller slotted screwdrivers, which could come in handy in an electronic kit. And then also in the scale here, we have a pin as well, a small straight head pin in the scale there. And then we have a small hook here. And then we also have an awl, and this is the only awl of the kit that has a sewing eyelet on it. And then as far as the scale tools go, we do have a toothpick here and a small pressurized pen, the secondary pen of the kit. And then on the side, we have a decent pair of tweezers in the kit as well for precision grabbing. These are very handy for a lot of small electronic projects, for putting screen protectors on things. Sometimes like the soft ones, I use those without marring the glue. Works fairly well. And then at the top here, before we continue along the side here, we do have a small Skill Hunt E3A AAA light. And the reason why we have this in the kit is because it is a high CRI light, meaning it renders the color index pretty accurately, so you can see colors of electronic wires a little bit more accurately than using a standard LED type of light. In this slot, we have the main multi-tool plier-based tool of the kit. This is the Leatherman Wave, and this is sort of a remixed, rehashed version I got back from the repair facility. So it has a couple features that are similar to the old Wave and the new Wave. So we have the main 420 HC stainless steel blade, which also liner locks on the outside here. And then we also have our saw, which comes in handy. It also liner locks. Then on this side, we have our serrated blade, which also liner locks. And then we have our three-sided file. And this is a special file on the Wave because it has a diamond-coated section, a third section on the bottom here, and a crosshatch section. So this, if I wanted to get into more fine abrasive work, I can use this file instead of the one on the ES4, and plus it's longer too, with a longer reach. Now, once we open it up, we have the third generation plier head inside of here with the 154 cm wire cutters, replaceable. We have a needle nose section for the head here and a smaller regular plier section here. And then on the insides, we do have a ruler here in both inches and centimeters on both sides of the scale. Let's open up the tools in this side here. And we have a small precision screwdriver. Again, this is a Phillips head, and the other side of the bit is a slotted screwdriver. And then we have a slotted screwdriver here, which also locks as well. All the tools lock in this tool. And this is great as a light duty pry bar, although we do have one in the kit that's dedicated for that. And then we do have this pair of scissors, the Wave version, which is okay for cutting paper and other items of that sort, but it's nowhere near as good as the Victorinox scissors. And then on this side, we do have our combo bottle cap lifter, can opener, and V-notch wire stripper here. So we do have a backup wire stripper for other types of gauges with the Wave, although it's not as comfortable to use as the ES4. And then we have our bit exchanger. Now, the bit exchanger is important here because it allows us to utilize a lot of the tools in the kit. For example, as we mentioned before, the 711 ratchet goes in here, and you can utilize the kit here. It fits very, very nice, and you can torque it to different positions. You can close this up, and it could become a very nice little handy torquing wrench. And the bits do fit inside the ratchet here. And you can now torque your way as you're working on items, Or if that doesn't work, simply take this out and we use the Leatherman bit driver, which also fits in here. And now we can simply go inline as well. So there's a lot of flexibility with the kit here, and it took a while to kind of design and think about how to make these tools work with the kit. Now, we're not going to build a house with this kit, but it will offer a degree of decent coverage for everyday activities and any kind of issues that might arise. And then finally, going down to the bottom here, we have a couple items. First off, we do have our aforementioned small pry bar. This is a Night Eyes one. A little bit of hex wrenching here, a gate here for clip on onto your keychain, and a small little ball cap lifter, which most multi-tools have, and this angled side for prying up tools, or prying up things. And then we have a small brush here for cleaning, and then we have some safety pins here, again for construction and poking things. And then in this slot we have some interesting tools. I have this small level, so you can kind of see if something's leveled out or not, and it fits greatly in this kit here. And then I have this Mech Army X2S stainless steel 10180 battery flashlight with 2 modes on it. So this is the long duration light and the rechargeable one, as you can remove the head here and you can access the micro USB charging port, which this cable will fit into, and you can charge this tool up, or you can replace the 10180 battery in the rear cap here and you'll be able to put another battery in here and use it. Very flexible tool for the kit here. Then in the bottom here I had this guitar pick I found, and this is great because it's flexible and I can get into places of electronics like screens, for example, and to pry up gently without marring the screen or breaking connectors. So these are fairly useful tools to have in a kit like this. Next up on this side we have a combination of tools. I have a smaller adapter, inline adapter for the Wave here, so that I can get into smaller screwdriver spaces and adapt 6mm hex picks to the proprietary adapter of the Leatherman. And then I have this extension portion here, which can work with the ratchet that we have in a T-handle fashion. This is part of a set from Duratech, and you would put it in that fashion there and put your bit, and you would be able to torque down with a lot of pressure with that. And this can also work as well as a extension for the actual ratchet. So it's got a lot of different uses as a T-handle wrench set. Then in this kit I do have a 4mm hex, which fits my cyber tool, to a 6mm, and then I have the 6mm to a 4mm hex, so I can still use my precision bits in a 6mm fashion if I wanted to, instead of using the cyber tool. So a small little piece that fits together. And then in this corner here I have a small metallic whistle and 2 hair ties to act as rubber bands in this small slot here. And then I had some leftover residual zip ties. I was kind of experimenting around with fitting things in the kit attached to these points here in the kit. So that is the front web section. Let's go into the back section here now to get to some of the bit sections. So we have some 5 feet of duct tape or so rolled onto itself. Very useful. And then in this part I do have the Leatherman proprietary bit kit, which features our multiple different types of bits for the kits that will work with our ratchets. So we have 21 different bits, or 42 separate bits. They're 21 double-sided bits, and they work fairly well. We even have a replacement slotted and Phillips head screwdriver for the kit as well. And that fits nicely in this little old plastic card holder that I had, without having the tools bounce around or mar up certain things. And that's our bit kit for the section of the toolkit. And then finally in the bottom here, I have a Atom Tech 3000 milliamp hour, 5 amp at 2 point amps out, or 5 volt at 2 point amp out battery bank. And this is what we use as our main power source for recharging our soldering iron, charging up our flashlight, and also powering other things to get a measurement on certain electronic projects. And that is it for this side. Let's close this up and take a look at the difference now and see how thin this pouch is and how much abuse it's taken to keep together. It's a very flat pouch, and by the look of it, without knowing it, you wouldn't think they would be able to fit all that gear inside of it, but it works very well. The Vanquest PPM Huge 2.0 platform is a very good kit for a smaller or semi-small electronic and regular toolkit. Overall, it was a lot of fun working and putting together this kit. The challenge was to fit everything in that little bag, and to do that it took about an hour or two, maybe a little bit more than that, to kind of figure out how everything fits in there, and then how to upgrade certain things to what there are now in there. Because I started with some different tools in the kit and did slight modifications once we got all the major big items fitting in there, mainly the Leatherman Wave, the Cyber Tool M, the two pliers, the Cobra and the wrench pliers from Nipix, and then the 4-inch vice grips, and also the multimeter pen. Those are the biggest items in the kit that take up a lot of space, so figuring out how they fit in the elastic webbing was quite a bit of challenge, but it's also rewarding once you come up with the correct alignment of the puzzles. I like to call it EDC puzzle, and Vanquest does a good job at building these kits in such a way where you can see the layout of the webbing, and they're in some ways challenging you to really maximize the heck out of their pouches, which is what I do. So that's all I have to say about my ultimate toolkit electronic kit hybrid set. I'm really happy that I made it, and I'm happy to get to share it with you guys. I'm glad about that. I want to say thank you for watching, and enjoy your day.